Welcome to episode 107 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Ross Chastain sends AJ Allmendinger to outer space edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm here with my co-host Josh Fine. What's going on, man?
I'm doing great, Phil. You had a really rough week of work, I guess. We both did, and this is coming out a little bit late. But glad to be back on the show for at least to cover what happened last week. Even though it's all kind of been past now, but it's still a hot topic in NASCAR with Ross Chastain moving AJ Allmendinger out of the way to get his first career win at CoTA, and all the stuff that happened last week in the world of racing. We got to talk about F1. Seems like Red Bull and Ferrari is going to be the battle this year for the title. We'll see how it goes down this season, but so far, first two races of the year, great racing throughout the field. So glad to be back on here to be able to talk about it with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Ross Chastain has been running great all year. I think we've talked about him since Daytona. I think every episode we've talked about Ross Chastain, I believe. And now he has his first career Cup win. Trackhouse Racing has their first Cup win, beating another first-year Cup Series, well, theoretically a first-year full-time Cup Series team in Colleague Racing with AJ Allmendinger. And the final few turns of that race at CoTA, which I think lasted about 17 hours because NASCAR has never figured out what a local yellow is or the ability to speed up the yellow flag process on road courses. That race made me at least a year older, even with the good finish. That and the fact that Chase Briscoe had a chance to win and ended up finishing 30th. That also did make me really happy. We'll talk about the whole weekend at CoTA. That includes the Xfinity series, which AJ Allmendinger won. So he's trying to do the double, not as something that he would be privy to in his NASCAR career, even though AJ Allmendinger is quite a talented race car driver. And the Truck Series saw Zane Smith get his second win of the year. So early title favorite, the two-time runner-up in the Truck Series, a guy who's now in the Ford pipeline. So you would venture to think that if he continues down this path and can kind of keep that momentum going and battle against the Kyle Busch Motorsports group, what that might end up leading to in future years. We'll also talk about Verstappen getting his first win of the year in Saudi Grand Prix and beating Charles Leclerc there. There was a little bit of brake testing and argy bargy to kind of get DRS, but in the end, the Ferrari had the pace early on, but the Red Bull in the end had better pace. Verstappen actually used good racecraft, which is something he's not really known for. Didn't actually have to run into somebody, which was also surprising, and make his stupid dive bombs that were not, that were the hopeless dive bombs that he usually does to go and get that first win of 2022. At the same token, you had the Mercedes drivers having their struggles. Lewis Hamilton getting hung out there with pit strategy and VSCs and cautions and all, while George Russell drove to a quiet fifth place finish. Sergio Perez had qualified on pole for the first time in his career. We'll get into what happened to him as well. And then in the roundup, we'll talk about F1 going to Las Vegas. So there'll be 3 American races. There will be one, of course, the CoTA, which is the prime race, but then the U.S. Grand Prix, but then you'll have the Miami Grand Prix and the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Miami will be in May. CoTA will be probably in October, and then Las Vegas will be in November. So we'll see how that goes. Racing on the Las Vegas Strip, it won't be in the Caesars Palace parking lot like it was in the early 80s. We'll get into Supercars at Symmons Plains, F2 at Saudi Arabia, MotoGP and Moto2 racing in Argentina this week. We'll preview the Cup Series at Richmond because as of our recording, the XFinity race has taken place. Just seen Keebler Gibbs win yet again and use up John Hunter Nemechek after John Hunter and him had traded pain, I guess, the whole time. So Keebler went and ran into him doing Carl Edwards style to go and win his third race of the year, 7th of his career. I think we'll get into that because it kind of fits the Ross Chastain narrative here of last week at CoTA. and some of his driving standards. We'll get into Josh's sim segment, talk about the iRacing world and there's some news in regards to video games being released. World of Outlaws has actually announced that they're gonna make a video game here. I remember playing the old World of Outlaws game. It was a lot of fun back in the day. So now 20 something years later, they're gonna release a new one here. So that'll be cool. And we'll close the deal. Might get into a little football. NFL draft is a month away. So we're going to start getting into that, see where some of these teams are at, talk about some of these positions. I mean, mostly it's defense and defensive line and offensive line, and there's key interior in this draft. But you're gonna have to talk about the quarterbacks and some of these other skill position guys and where those people will go relative to some of these teams that are lacking in those departments. But first, let's get into Formula One. The second Saudi Grand Prix at one of the worst circuits on the face of the planet. Track that is definitely dangerous. It left Mick Schumacher in a place where he wasn't able to race after a massive crash in qualifying, destroyed his car, left with 19 cars started or were to start the race at Jeddah, and because Haas withdrew. But then Yuki Tsunoda's car didn't even make it to the starting line because his Red Bull powertrain, as they call it, or Honda, quit. So after being the only one at Bahrain to finish the race amongst the Red Bull cars, he was the only Red Bull car that didn't finish the race at Jeddah. So that was pretty rough. But Verstappen ended up winning the race. He only led 6 laps, the final 6 laps. Charles Leclerc started second, finished first. Carlos Sainz started third, finished third. And Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate, qualified on pole and led the first 14 laps, but a full safety car for Nicholas Latifi crashing again. That was the second crash he had during the weekend, basically derailed Sergio Perez, and from then on was really in catch-up mode the rest of the race and could only salvage a 4th place finish. George Russell ended up finishing 5th after starting 6th, swapping places with Esteban Ocon. Mercedes was 22 seconds behind the second Red Bull. They were 32 seconds behind the win, and basically over 32 seconds behind the leading duo at the end of the race. So a bad look for them in that situation. And Lewis Hamilton got 1 point, finished 10th after starting 15th, moved up because of, I guess, grid penalties and stuff like that. A horrendous situation where Lewis didn't even make it out of Q1. And that was the first time in 4.5 years that had happened. So a lot going on there. He talked about the top 5. Ocon, Norris got points for McLaren, even though their team and their car is horrible right now. Pierre Gasly, Kevin Magnussen getting 2 consecutive points finishes for the Haas F1 team after last year's nightmare, and scoring, what is it called? 12 more points than Egghead will ever score in his career. So the fact of the matter is we got through that. Verstappen and Leclerc, that was the battle all day. The back and forth, which is probably going to be the battle for this world championship. It looks like Max is racing Charles Leclerc with a little more respect than he did with Lewis Hamilton. Maybe he's trying to be a little more protective. Maybe he's become aware that he drives like a tool. And if he drives Charles Leclerc the same way, it's probably not going to pay off for him as well. So there might be that. Maybe it's a little cat and mouse early in the season in regards to pace. But I guess we'll find out. Next week will be the Australian Grand Prix, and a different type of track really compared to the first 2 races of the year, and where that balance may lie amongst that duo. It's been a few years since they've raced at Albert Park, so they've done some changes to the track, resurfacing. But Verstappen wins. He had the pace at at Bahrain, but he didn't have the racecraft. But a week later, he may have not had the ultimate pace, but he had better racecraft and was able to, utilize the safety cars to his advantage and get Leclerc. As of now, he gave up. Of course, they gave up the points at Bahrain, so he's still 20 points behind Charles Leclerc for the championship lead. And Ferrari has a huge lead in the constructor standings. But Josh, in the end, Verstappen gets the W. Can't deny that.
No, you can't deny that he got the W there. Like you said, he actually had pretty good racecraft to start out this race, and to end this race, and he had the opportunity to take the lead a couple of times leading up to that pass. He had that battle with Leclerc and got past him, but then Leclerc was able to use DRS and get past him back on the front straight. But then eventually, with 6 laps to go, Verstappen was able to patiently pass him in the hairpin before the final straight or the front straight, and was able to actually get around him there, and then got away and took the win. So, like you said, this is looking like it's going to be Max Verstappen versus Charles Leclerc for the World Drivers' Championship in 2022. At least early on, that's what it looks like, based on how Verstappen was able to be on pace, in Bahrain, and now it's Saudi Arabia. And going forward, it looks like it's going to be these two guys fighting for the championship. You talked about Verstappen, how he's racing the leader, and how respect, I guess, he's giving to Leclerc. And I think it just comes with experience. Being the champion from last year. Last year he was the challenger to Lewis Hamilton. Now this year he's got to protect his title, like you said. And I think being that champion, you got to be kind of a racer representative of a champion. And looks like maybe he's starting to do that. Possibly, we'll see how it goes. I still think he's pretty aggressive as a driver still, but beginning to be a little bit more smarter in when to use that aggression and when to pull back. So it looks like for Verstappen, maybe we're beginning to see that now. Of course, in other things that in this race that happened, there was a great battle with Fernando Alonso, and that's early on in the race. Great racing there. Certainly showing this new car, that you can race and pass back each other on a lap-to-lap basis. And so you can see it in the midfield, and you can see it up front, like we saw with Leclerc and Verstappen. You mentioned Sergio Perez, of course, maybe being forced into pit road a couple of laps early. Looked like maybe Ferrari was going to pit with them, and then they decided to pit with Ferrari. But of course, looked like Ferrari faked going into the pit stop, and then of course had that safety car with Nick Latifi crashing, and then that basically ended Perez's chances of winning that Grand Prix. First career pole in F1, and then being able to lead laps, but failing to come up with the win. So missed opportunity there. But of course, now Ferrari, 2 cars on the podium, behind Verstappen. That's pretty impressive start to the season so far. They were 1-2 in Bahrain. Now they're 2-3 at Saudi Arabia. So looking like a solid start to the year for Ferrari. And like you said, they're massively ahead right now in the Constructors' Championship. So they look like they're continuing to improve and back up what they were doing in preseason testing. So there's that. You mentioned Lewis Hamilton finishing 10th, getting 1 point. It looks like he's struggling now. Looking like he's struggling with this new car, whatever it is, whatever the reason, and looks like Mercedes as a whole, as a team, they're lacking the pace. Toto Wolff has talked about the pace, their lack of pace, and we'll see as we go along the year. Does it improve? Do they, make updates to their engine, being able to keep up with Ferrari and Red Bull? But so far, kind of an uncharacteristic start to the year for Mercedes in that team. Of course, looks like so far into the year, George Russell carrying the flag for the team. So a lot of moving parts and pieces so far to this year. So far, we've only had 2 races, but so far now we're beginning to kind of see what the season might look like, and certainly to me at least, looking pretty exciting. Despite this race in particular. Like had the controversy leading up to the race, of course, with the missile shooting and landing near Jeddah. Of course, Mick Schumacher getting injured in qualifying, or well, not getting injured, but certainly suffering a crash and then withdrawing, due to precautions from the Grand Prix. So even despite all of that, the drivers decided to continue on and race, and despite all of that, it was still a pretty good Grand Prix. And so far, a lot of great racing, at least in my opinion. So, that's my takeaways, I guess, from this Formula One Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, you brought up the missiles and going off and them blowing up crap, and then the drivers continuing, probably being assisted by their team principals and other people at Liberty Media, along with the Saudi government, and they're threatening, probably not allowing them to get out of the country, amongst other things. The same government that killed Jamal Khashoggi, and that just randomly got swept under the rug. So there might be that in regards to that. Haas, of course, took precaution because Mick was at the racetrack the next day. The rumor, and I read that on social media, was he didn't want to go to the hospital, and his mom basically had to tell him to go. And when you consider what his mom has had to deal with with his dad and her husband, the legendary Michael Schumacher, and some of the other stuff that has happened, I'm pretty sure she was very concerned for Mick and his safety, knowing full well more than likely he wasn't going to race anyway. But it's, for his career, and this is the second time he's had a big crash there too. People forget, many people forget that he had a huge off on the other side of the racetrack during the race last year, which was the first of about 85 million things that happened in that race last year.
Set up the championship.
Yeah, it really set the tone for what ended up happening the last two races of the year, because Lewis pitted and everybody else stayed out, or Lewis and everybody, all these other guys pitted, and then Fish Lip stayed out, and that kind of started a whole chain reaction deal. But yeah, there was a lot that went on there. I'm glad that we don't have to talk about this shithole track and country for a year. It's sad that we have to go to this country to race at all, let alone race at this racetrack. It's one of the most, it's not really, it's an overrated go-kart track is what it is. It's not suitable for Formula One. It's not suitable for Formula 2. It's not suitable. It might be suitable for compact cars to race around, and that might be it, because you can't go more than 130 miles an hour in a compact car. So that might be it. It's a shithole racetrack. I can't stand Saudi Arabia. We've had two races there in I don't know how many months, and it's offensive and it's a joke. Just is pathetic. Charles Leclerc leads the points with 45. He's 12 points out of his teammate Carlos Sainz. Verstappen is at 25, of course, after not scoring at Bahrain. George Russell is fourth in points with 22, and Lewis Hamilton's fifth with 16. In regards to the constructor standings, Ferrari is up by 40 points on Mercedes, and Red Bull is 1 point behind Mercedes, so 40 and 41 points. And then there's a huge gap. Alpine is at 16 points. Haas, with the points from Kevin Magnussen, is at 12. There's actually a pretty good battle from fourth to eighth, which is only separated by 10 points early in the season. Alpine, Haas, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and McLaren. McLaren, of course, using Lando Norris's points from the last race. AlphaTauri with the combination of the points from Yuki Tsunoda at Bahrain and Pierre Gasly at Saudi, and Alfa Romeo with the points scored by both Bottas and Zhou Guan Yu at Bahrain, and then what is it, the last race? Yeah, because neither Alfa Romeo was able to score points because Bottas was running in the points, fell out with overheating issues. That was a problem for Fernando Alonso. He was running in the points. He had overheating issues. Ricardo had that as well. So all three of them fell out within a lap of each other, which is the safety car and VSC that basically went against Lewis Hamilton, but the other teams were able to respond to it. So I don't understand that. It seemed pretty convenient. Right now, the only two teams that don't have points are Aston Martin and Williams, who probably at this moment are the two worst cars. I mean, McLaren has an argument there with their car and their team in general, the way things are. But yeah, I mean, that's about all. Australian Grand Prix, Albert Park, first time in a few years going there. We will see how that all goes down. It'll be early in the morning, East Coast time. I was looking at it. It'll be
Yeah,
1 o'clock
one.
in the morning.
It's too late.
Yeah, I might be awake. I probably won't be. The qualifying is. I have to just go back there. I was looking at it because it'll say sync the schedule here, so I can. It'll tell you here, and then Australia times displayed or track times. My time, yeah. So it'll be 1 to 3 in the morning. Qualifying will be on Saturday the 9th or 8th, which it'll get early Saturday morning 2 to 3, and then early Sunday morning 1 to 3 in the morning East Coast time. So if you're on the West Coast, it actually isn't bad. If you're a West Coast person or if you're somebody going that way, then yeah, you'll going towards Cali and all that. That'll be a good one. You'll get a nightcap there to watch the race, but I don't think I'm going to be watching it. I'll probably have to watch it on replay
Yeah.
later on in the day for sure. I don't think ESPN has much to put on these days because I'm not sure if baseball is starting next week or not, but I figure they'll need something to fill some time, so they'll be able to show the race again.
Yeah, I mean, that race time for the Australian Grand Prix, like, I mean, so here's the thing, like, if you are in California, like, it'll start at 10, and it's actually a pretty good ending to the night because there's also, in the wide world of sports, there's UFC 273, which is in Jacksonville, and that's going to be a pretty big entertaining event. Must watch TV probably. I mean, well, it's on pay per view, but a lot of people go to watch that. So, if you live on the West Coast, you'll have the opportunity to be able to watch that, and then follow it up with the Australian Grand Prix if you so choose to do so. But for a lot of people, I mean, I'll probably watch UFC and then probably go to bed after that. Because I mean, I would love to stay up to watch Australian GP, but then I also know it's probably time to go to bed. So, the start times for F1, of course, trying to reach a bigger U.S. audience. We'll talk about it later with Las Vegas, and the start time for the Las Vegas GP next November 2023. But a lot of sometimes, I mean, I get it's international and everything, but sometimes with these starts, especially for us East Coast people, it doesn't work too well watching it live.
Yeah, they always when the Troll ran Formula One, everything was based around the British, the British time, making it either they would have it at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 noon, or I mean, I experienced that when I went to England years ago, and the British Grand Prix was right smack dab at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and qualifying was 1 o'clock in the afternoon the day before. So, and that was during Wimbledon too. I think was going on. So, you had Wimbledon and the British Grand Prix going on. So, almost a sensory overload deal when the Troll was running the show. Now, I don't know what liberties, uh, I guess, the deal is in regards to how they want to do timings. I mean, we will talk about it, of course, with the Vegas Grand Prix, but I also think that there are some races you're just not going to be able to see, unfortunately. It's a byproduct of the way timing is in the world when you're talking about a world motorsport. Unless it's a sports car race, unless it's like an endurance sports car race, they're really not going to have it at a time that's going to be palatable. I mean, you think about the 24 Hours of Le Mans starts at, I think, 8:30 in the morning here, or 9 o'clock in the morning here, and on the East Coast for both of us. So that'll be even earlier for the West Coasters and stuff. So it's kind of you win and lose. You win some, you lose some on that one. we'll see what happens. I mean, to be fair, after qualifying, you could probably determine who the hell is going to win anyways. Unless there's something that comes from practice that makes us think that Albert Park is going to be there. We'll get more into it in the next episode, but probably might not be one to really care to watch anyway. And I can say that because I've watched races at Albert Park ever since they started there, and most of them have been pretty garbage. It wasn't like even when they used to run at Adelaide, there was passing zones. There was a long back straightaway. You could kind of dive bomb at the first corner. There was the last hairpin there. You could go and make a run. There was actually passing zones at that racetrack in the original configuration. Even in the V8 Supercars configuration, there was some passing. There was at least 2 passing zones. There's really 1.5 passing zones, at least previously. Maybe these new changes will help. We'll find out. Let's get into CoTA. And we're talking about driving standards and other things. But Ross Chastain put through caution to the wind, driving standards to the wind, and won the Echo Park, Texas Grand Prix for his first career Cup Series win. A guy who you could remember a few years ago got an opportunity from Chip Ganassi to jump in an Xfinity car at Darlington, and I think qualified on the front row, led a lot of laps, and got into a battle with Kevin Harvick and wiped himself out. Yeah, and that became a thing. Kevin Harvick went off on him, which is funny considering Kevin Harvick drove the same way. And now Kevin Harvick has come out like yesterday and basically was very positive about Ross Chastain's driving standard in going and sending AJ Allmendinger into the turn 19 boondocks. Ross Chastain has always been known as an aggressive driver once he got into top equipment. He drove for years in JD Motorsports and lower level vehicles, and now he's been in top level equipment. Justin Marks wanted him to be his other driver along with Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez dominated the first stage, and basically because of the stupidity of stages, got fucked and really was nowhere after that. I mean, we look at the results. Suarez won the stage and then finished 24th. I mean, that's considering how good that car was, that's pretty criminal, to say the least. But considering the argy, he spun too. I mean, a lot of people spun in this race. There was a lot of argy-bargy that went on in this deal. Ross Chastain gets his first career Cup Series win, led the most laps in this race with 31. Alex Bowman finished second. Christopher Bell finished third. William Clyde Elliott II finished fourth, the defending winner of this race. Tyler Reddick fifth, so 4 Chevys in the top 5. Blaney started on pole, got a lot of stage points, only led 1 lap, finished 6th. Truex 7th, Cindric 8th, led 11 laps. Eric Jones from 30th finished 9th, and Austin Dillon finished 10th. So that's, if you consider, I mean, Chastain, I'm not sure that, I think the Kaulig cars are RCR affiliates, right? Yeah, and then the Trackhouse cars are Hendrick affiliate. So in regards to RCR affiliated, 3 Hendrick affiliated cars finished in the top 4, and then there was an additional, 3 RCR cars that finished in the back half of the top 10 there, or from 5th to 10th. So good on them. The best Stewart-Haas car was Kevin Harvick in 11th, but really the best Stewart-Haas car got railroaded. I mean, you had Custer, who actually qualified third, was running the Xfinity race, ran the Xfinity race. We're going to get into that here in a few moments' time. He finished 23rd, got spun out in turn 1. Then Chase Briscoe cut a tire down, had other crap go on, was leading the race, had a chance to win, was going to get penalized. I don't know how many different things happened to him. Tony was in the booth too, so can you only imagine? And then got railroaded and nobody said anything. He finished 30th. Boris said, making a rare appearance in the Cup Series these days, drove for the, Carl Long team, finished 26th, beating the likes of Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Briscoe, Logano, Kurt Busch, AJ Allmendinger, who got wrecked there at the end and didn't finish. Finished a lap down. So in the end, there was 32 cars on the lead lap because I don't know how many fucking cautions they had. They say this was 3 hours and 20 minutes. That race felt like it took about 6.5 hours. And they had, what is it, they're saying 9 caution flags. I felt like they called about 14 or 15, which is why 32 cars were on the lead lap. There's multiple things about road racing, and I think we've said this on this show, I think multiple times over, especially at the bigger road courses, but you don't need stages at road courses. You need local yellows at road courses. Some of the driving standards and track limits have to be really looked at, and how they police them or don't. But then it's consistent. It goes with two sayings that I've always said with NASCAR: consistently inconsistent and selective enforcement. Tony Stewart's in the booth. Chase Briscoe really didn't. He got sent there. They were going to give him a penalty, but they gave a penalty to smaller team drivers. Loris Henzemans, who, he's a random. They gave him the penalty. They gave some other guy a penalty for doing the same, or getting put in a similar spot. But then Briscoe, who's running for points, who has won a race, his owner's in the booth, and he's already questioning what some of the calls you're making. They rescind the penalty on Briscoe. I mean, I'm a Briscoe guy. I didn't. The point is, he got sent there. If they penalized him, I would not have been happy. In the end, I wasn't happy anyway. Maybe if they penalized him, he'd have finished 20th. I think that's about the only thing that would have came from that. He still would have gotten fucked. He still wouldn't have won the race, but he would have maybe finished 20th. He lost points on Sunday that he probably could have had. Because now, just looking at the driver points out of the Curiosity, he's 42 points out of the lead right now, but he's third of the drivers or fourth of the drivers that have won a race. So he probably lost about 20 points, 15 points maybe. And if that's 15 points would have put him, he'd be ahead of Ross Chastain actually, in points. If he had gotten those, he'd have probably gotten about 15 positions. So it's part of what makes their playoff format. You can go and finish 30th, but if you have a win, it doesn't really matter if you win stages and you get stage points and the whole bit. A lot to unpack there, Josh, but I guess the first thing we have to discuss is Ross Chastain getting his first win, Trackhouse getting their first win. A tale of two drivers there. They've had a great year this year, to be fair, and Ross Chastain has been on fire. I don't think a few years ago many people would have thought that this would be what was going on, but Watermelon Man smashes watermelon. He was sitting there eating watermelon, doing his interview, and he's a Cup Series winner. And that team is a factor. I honestly think they are a factor to do something in this playoff, if they can continue this momentum, because they've been on a great run early in the season. They can continue doing this. It could be something. They could be the little engine that could. It could have yesterday was the unfortunate anniversary of Alan Kowicki's passing here, which will be coming up on now 30 years next year. 29 years ago, we lost Alan Kowicki and 3 Hooters executives in the mountains of Tennessee in a plane crash. But Alan Kowicki is, of course, most known NASCAR Hall of Famer, for his small team beating the big engine of Junior Johnson, Bill Elliott, Tim Brewer, Bud Washer, beating Davey Allison and the Robert Yates Racing team, beating Roush Racing. There were 6 drivers that had a chance to win the championship going into Atlanta that year. And I feel like there's certain vibes with this Trackhouse Racing team that kind of fits that old AK Racing number 7 team. And Ross Chastain seems like the scrappy kind of guy that really, he's not Alan Kowicki by any means, in a lot of ways, but he's hard-nosed and he wants it bad enough. And I think that is a lot like Alan Kowicki. So Ross Chastain, nobody really knew was a big road racer, but he's become one. I think that was that AJ Allmendinger education. And he sent his teacher into the turn 19 boondocks to go and get that win when AJ used them up there a few corners before.
Yeah, I mean, I first of all, with the driving standards, with respect to that, I don't think that Ross Chastain is an undeserving winner. Like a lot of these Cup races where we see this type of finish play out, I mean, I still think he very much deserved to win that race, and not only based on this race alone, but based on his performance so far this year and being able to lead laps, be up front. I mean, he's finished second a bunch of times already before finally getting a win at CoTA. So it's not like this is some random win, and like in the past where we've seen a small team just randomly win a race and get into the playoffs and everything. This is a guy that's here to win and has showed it and backed up his performance on a week-to-week basis so far this year. So on that note, not an undeserving winner. But then, of course, you see how this race ended. I mean, he got moved out of the way by AJ Allmendinger a couple corners before in turn 12, and then getting in, or well, turn 16, and then going into turn 19, he basically pretty much bump drafts Allmendinger in the corner, and then Allmendinger gets sent into Alex Bowman, who could have won the race coming out of nowhere. And some people talk about Alex Bowman being an undeserving winner. Well, I mean, he was right there at the end when he needed to be. So Allmendinger gets into him and spins out and then fails to finish the race. And I mean, it seems like this is what you have to do to win Cup races these days, or really to win in NASCAR these days, the way that they've set it up. Because I feel like certainly he didn't need to bump him out of the way or send him into the corner like that. You probably could have passed him cleanly like that. Certainly could have, but I think with Allmendinger being upset with how that ended, I mean, you really can't be too upset because, I mean, he bumped him out of the way to potentially win that race just a couple corners before. So once you bump somebody else, you kind of open the door for them to give it right back to you, and certainly that's what Chastain did. Is he gave it right back to Allmendinger and then some. So, I mean, I think, in that regard, it's basically just racing how it plays out. And, I mean, if it was, on one end, if it was Ross Chastain just sending him in the corner without what would happen or what had happened a few corners ago, maybe that's a little bit more controversial, maybe a little bit more dirty driving. But certainly, he's just giving it right back to AJ Allmendinger, and Allmendinger went and cried about it. So, that's I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of fair. What goes around comes around, but at the same time, a lot of these Cup races tend to end this way these days, and it does bring into question driving standards, whether or not you should bump a driver out of the way like that for a win. I mean, we've seen it before in NASCAR, but just I guess the way that it's happened these days certainly brings that into question. And you talk about road racing and the standards, I guess, on that. I mean, I go back to, was it like 2005, the ending to the American Le Mans Series race at Laguna Seca, and I forget who it was, but there was a Corvette and another GT class car that had a really good battle, and then the last corner before the start finish line, I think the Corvette guy was about to pass him, and then he got, like, they're right about to cross the line, and he got hooked, in the right rear. Right before crossing the start finish line. You probably remember this race, and I remember Tommy Kendall, our good buddy who's not been on the show yet, but I remember he was on the call on that race, and there's certainly driving standards there, and tying it back to this, racing for the win like that on a road course, a lot of people find it racing like that for a win not acceptable on a road course, but we've gotten used to it on short tracks, oval tracks. So I guess there's a little bit of a mix-up there with regards to how that plays out. But Ross Chastain, the Florida man, the watermelon man, going out getting his first career win. His ban happened at some point, and he was able to be able to do that and win in the Cup Series is a pretty good thing, considering just how hard it is to win in the Cup Series. And when you have an opportunity to win, I guess you do have to take your chance and do that and be able to win. So certainly Ross Chastain backing up his performance so far this year, being able to go out and win in the Cup Series, and looks like we're probably going to break a record for first-time winners this year in the Cup Series, because I mean we're basically already there almost. I mean we've had like 3, 4 first-time winners already this year, and we haven't, had that many races. So
Yeah.
shows you just how well this car races and levels out the parity of the field.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Gumby, Briscoe, Ross Chastain, and
I
that's
think that's
3
it.
already. Yeah, right
And
now.
Reddick could have won too.
And Reddick has been close. You have, you're talking like I'll just bring up the driver points again. Uh, what's it called? I'm looking at this. Yeah, Reddick has never won a race. Suarez, they're both inside the top 16 in points. Those two guys have never won a cup race. Then you have outside of that, those two. So that would be like 5 if those guys could win. You have Haley's won a cup race. Bubba Wallace has won a cup race. The next one after that would be Ty Dillon, I guess. Yeah. Ty Dillon, Todd Gilliland. So really it would be those two guys. Once you get to Tyler Reddick, I think is that next person, and then Suarez. That'd be 5 first-time winners. I'm trying to think. I feel like 2001. There was
2002,
a
I
lot
think.
of 2001 or 2. Yeah, there's a lot of first-time winners in that time because you had a bunch of rookies, different people that were in there. I mean, Tony. It took Tony 25 starts, so and for like Briscoe, it took 40 starts for him. But then you have Earnhardt Jr. did in his
12
12th
starts.
start. Jimmy Johnson didn't take him that many starts. It all varies. Yeah, Harvick was in his third start. So it all varies. Cindric, I think, had less than 10 starts. I was like his eighth or ninth start, something like that, when he won the 500. So it all varies. It's going to be interesting to see. Chastain is a guy that I think is a contender, and it's going to piss a lot of people off, and it's kind of fun. He's a polarizing guy, but the point is he's grassroots. He's come from nothing really, like he's come from being a guy who had to start and park and bottom feed and be in the 25s to 20, be in the outside of top 20 to be in the spot. Unlike somebody we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. The fact he went and sent Allmendinger got into him first. Allmendinger wants to be mad about it. The fact is one of his mentors is Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy did it a bunch, and then it came back to him too, and he wanted to bitch and moan, and he couldn't deal with it when Sebastian Bourdais gave it back to him. And the difference was Sebastian Bourdais basically took his balls. And that, I think part of the reason why Tommy Kendall's not been on the show other than his being busy is because I badmouth Paul Tracy.
He's friends with Paul Tracy and makes
Yeah,
sense.
he's very close with Paul Tracy. And so, but the point is, I never was a fan of Paul Tracy, and I think he's a douche. And it is what it is. But the fact is, it's the politics thing, too. I don't generally agree with some of the politics, some of the things that, TK is about. But the fact of the matter is, he's an amazing race car driver. He wouldn't agree with my politics, probably, or theoretically. But I love motorsports. And
I'll play
I
the role of
understand the
middleman
issue.
there if you ever
Yeah.
get him on.
It's whatever. We're going to talk about racing. It's going to basically be a fan girling out if he were to show up, which he probably isn't. But the fact is, under the pretense that he does, then it would be me doing that because, talking about all the different race cars he's driven, how he looked like Zach Morris, then he went blonde with a little bit of hair, and then he became Tony Kanaan. He's become a big, tall Tony Kanaan. Except way more talent and a smaller nose. One less Indy 500 win. But he's been married to the same woman for like 30 or 40 years or whatever the fuck. But anyway, CoTA was a long race, and if NASCAR, they're run by the same people that run IMSA, yet they don't know what local yellows are. They don't know how to dispatch people out there. It just irritates me beyond belief. This has been the same problem for years. And you're running 6 road course races, and you're running at a Formula One track, and you can't dispatch cars or things to get people off the racetrack. It's almost like it's a game. We're on WrestleMania weekend right now. It almost seems like you want WrestleMania because you want restarts over and over again, destroy equipment when teams are short on parts. I don't know. It's stupid.
Yeah, what I will say about that is the fact that this car, I mean, you talk about we're increasing the amount of road course races. We're, this car is designed to be basically a road course car. This is basically, and talk about how this car raced on CoTA. I mean, it looked like it raced pretty well in my opinion. I think you can probably agree with me on that. And
Definitely.
yeah, and this car, yeah, definitely is designed to run on road course tracks. And you talk about not knowing how to put out local yellows. I mean, well, maybe they'll figure it out eventually because it looks like NASCAR is going to transition to more of a road course like series, or at least have more influence from road courses. So let's take it. When they go on road courses, let's adopt more of the road racing procedures and stuff, and yeah, bring in local yellows and stuff, and get rid of stage stuff, and maybe they can figure out a way to shorten the caution laps too, because I'm sure there's probably a couple of turns that they could take instead of going around the full course yellow, just so we can shorten the amount of time it takes to complete these races, because I mean they are long, and you talked about the race taking forever to end, and that's how it's always like on road course races. I mean, we didn't have any cautions throughout the first two stages, and then after that things started getting hairy.
Yeah.
So that's how it is on these races, and at least if we can shorten the yellows on, or the yellow flag laps, I guess, and go to local yellows, get rid of stages. Maybe we can actually have some real road course racing in NASCAR someday, hopefully.
Yeah, that's where, I mean, the point you brought up about no stage breaks, you can give points. They do it in the North American Endurance Championship for the, what do you call, for IMSA. When you talk about the Endurance Cup, they give points at certain intervals of the race at 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, whatever, in the World X 24 and at 24 hours or something like that. I may be wrong. I'm maybe remembering it wrong, but I feel like there's certain intervals, maybe 6, 12, 18, and 24. They do it in the 12 hours of Sebring at 3, 6, 9, and 12. Okay, well, you pick two spots in the race of whatever, it was 62 laps scheduled. Okay, at lap 7, 18, and lap 36, whoever's leading, whoever the top 10 is at that point, gets stage points. And then you let the race flow the way it would. If cautions are going to happen, they're going to happen. But you also can, I think you could speed up the pace car instead of running at whatever pit road speed or whatever it is, speed the pace car up and run faster. So then at the end of the day, they'll say, as long as you're not in the area where the incident has occurred, once you get past that, you speed up and you go and let the whatever safety workers understand, look, pull them off, get them out in an area. If you stop, you're done. Like, that's basically what it is. It's not, oh, we tow you back all the way to the front of the field or whatever, or you take a shortcut. CoTA has that shortcut because they have the short course. So if you're on the front part of the circuit, you take that shortcut. If you're on the back end of the circuit and you haven't gotten halfway down the straightaway, because I forget who stopped down the back straightaway halfway and they lost power or whatever, it's going to take for fucking ever to get them all the way back with all the goddamn corners, because there's 23 corners there. I mean, at some point, you just go and say to yourself, if your car stops on the racetrack and you bring out a yellow, it's an Indy car is a perfect example. If you cause a yellow in qualifying, you lose your two fastest laps. You're basically in tailback. If you're, as Krusty Wallace would say, if you cause yellow in a race and your car stops, you're done. Pull them off. Okay, that's 2 laps. That's a 2-lap caution. Every caution takes like 5 fucking laps in the Cup Series on a road course, because they don't know how to goddamn get cars off the damn racetrack. They called the debris, the conclusion of stage 1, 9 for they called, so 1 lap. Debris was 2 laps, or it was 2 laps. 43 stopped on the backstretch. Yeah, it was Eric Jones, and then he ended up finishing 9th, so it tells you what happened. Debris on turn 16, that was 1 lap. 2 laps 47 stuck on the back stretch, 1 lap fluid on the front stretch. Then, 2 laps. They're saying 9 for 13 laps, but the reality is it's a 3.5 mile, nearly 3.5 mile racetrack. So, I mean, you could say, oh, it's a 1 lap caution, but it's a 3.5 mile racetrack. So it takes for fucking ever. It's the same way as Road America. 13 laps in a race that ended up being 69 laps. 69 is too much. And it really doesn't have to be that much. And you're talking about, nearly 19% of the race was under yellow, which you would theoretically say. I mean, when you get into, I don't know what the pole time was off the top. I probably can go and get that there. Starting lineup, they won't show the 132 seconds, so 2 minutes 12. So if the pole time is 2:12 around CoTA, I would venture to say that a caution lap would be double that time. I'm not sure if you agree with that, Josh, but I would venture to say that that's what it is. So so if you're saying that a caution lap is going to take 4.5 minutes times 2, a caution is going to take 10 minutes in real time. So you're talking about 10 minutes in real time, amount of things you can get done in 10 minutes. If you really put yourself to it, you can get a lot of shit done in 10 minutes. But they seemingly can't clear a damn wreck or car that's stopped in 10 minutes when you have 85 fucking safety vehicles and 8 trillion people there. But when you run an SCCA event, they can run the SCCA, what the hell is it? Their big event, the Nationals, why am I forgetting the name of it? It's gonna piss me off. CA, Sports Car Club of America. You go over here. The news, member, national. Want to see the thing from 9 events. Rallycross, track events, hill climb, road racing. That's not what I want. I'm going this way to go and figure out what I'm looking for in regards to the runoffs, the SCCA runoffs. That's what I was looking for. So they can run about 25 different classes of cars amongst 3 days. And they can get all those dang races in. 25 different classes of cars. They can get them in and out of there, do all that. But an NASCAR race has to become a freaking endurance race. I mean, for fuck's sake, Jim France runs IMSA. Like, how the hell can they, all these assholes are in Daytona. You're telling me they can't have they can't have a meeting? That dumbass SOD and Steve Phelps can't get their assholes to go and talk to some of these fuckers at IMSA. You can't talk to Bo Barfield and go and say, here's how you run a goddamn road race. I mean, it's retarded. It's getting old. And the fact is, you have to go to Snoroma, which is one of the worst racetracks on earth. And now they've decided to get rid of the cork. They're going to get rid of the carousel.
They're going back to the short shoot.
They're going back to the short course. So they're just going to wreck people over there for whatever reason. So that's whatever. Then you're going to go to Road America, which is going to be a disaster. There should be no stock car racing at Road America anymore. Just do us all a favor and get it over with, unless it is an SCCA runoff, to be fair. You're going to go to Watkins Glen, which is fine. They've had that for years, and they destroy a bunch of shit at Watkins Glen. The Roval, that's, it's the Roval. That's basically a demolition derby. So that is what's the other road course I'm forgetting? Because I said Snoroma, Watkins Glen, the Roval, because there's 6, and we just had the first one. CoTA's 4, there's 6. All right, I have to go into the schedule. I have to go back into the schedule then. Give me a second here. It's what makes me, when I go off on a rant, even better. I need to go. So yes, CoTA. We have they have CoTA. Then you have Snoroma here coming up. That's the next road course. Actually, is in June. Well, interesting. Then you have
Indy
Road America. Yeah, the Indy road course. Yeah, Indy road course is only 2.5 miles, but they have a lot of runoff area. It's a Formula One style track. But then perfect example was last year when
The track
all the
exploded.
cars when they were using that chicane curb as a launch pad, like they were doing at Nitro Circus, and they destroyed it. And that wrecked about half the field. It's the same kind of shit, you know. I don't know. It's the same crap, and it's typical NASCAR. They're closer to WWE with cars than they are to actual motorsports, but that's beside the point, I guess. It's a product, a part and parcel, and oh man, I forgot that they're going to Atlanta twice. That's gonna fucking suck. At least it's only gonna be 400. At least they're only gonna have 400 miles for that shit show. On in July.
That's a nighttime race, I think, too.
It's afternoon.
Oh,
It'll be afternoon into the night because it'll probably take 4 hours with all the wrecked race cars they're gonna have at Atlanta by then. They're starting a Pocono race at 3 o'clock, which was really a bad decision. They'll be running that Michigan race at 3 o'clock, also a bad decision. They're running Richmond in the afternoon in August at 3 o'clock. Well, at least they're consistent. You got to give USA when they're going to start their deal. All these races are 3 o'clock or 3:30, starting with other than the Atlanta race. So Atlanta and Talladega is 3 o'clock, and Dover's 3. So it seems like 3 o'clock is their thing, 3 or 3:30.
well, all the races are 3:30,
Yeah.
3:30. For whatever reason, they think that starting the race in the mid afternoon is a hell of a lot better idea than starting at 12 or 1, because they've been saying for years that the ratings are better when we start at 3 p.m. Rather than at 1 p.m. Maybe that's true in the NFL season, but I'd rather get it out of the way earlier in the day rather than have to wait.
No,
And you're sitting, 'cause
you're.
it makes it feel like it takes forever when you start
Mhm.
at 3 and then you end at like 7 or 8. It's like, oh man, that took forever.
Yeah, and let's go and look at it from the other aspect of actually going to the race. I'm somebody. I mean, Josh, you've went to races at Daytona. You've went to races at other places. Me, I've went to Dover. I've went to Pocono. I remember going to Pocono, 12 o'clock start. Race ends at 4. Basically, you're gonna have to wait an hour to get out of there. It's 5. It's 2 hours. I get home at 7. You're talking about 3 o'clock start. It'll be 3:20 before that race starts. It'll be 4 hours, probably 7:20. You're going to be out at 8:20. It's going to take 2 hours. You're going to be out at home at 10:30. You have to go to work. If you have to go to work the next day, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just stupid that we're starting these races earlier, and you're not competing against the NFL. You're not going to beat the NFL. No matter how bad Roger Goodell runs the NFL, and he still gets paid $30 million a year because he's a cuckold and a ball licker. They're gonna have one. You're gonna run 105 or 1 o'clock and 4:15 or 4:25. Now 1 and 4:25. They could start NFL games at 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's be fair. They could start NFL games at 1 o'clock in the morning, like they're gonna have the Australian Grand Prix. Depending on who those teams are, they're gonna watch. Josh is going to want to watch his Jacksonville Jaguars because he knows he's going to get to see them. If it's the 49ers and they're going to be on national TV, I'm fucking watching that team. But it's the NFL. NASCAR fucking sucks compared to the NFL.
Yeah.
How are you going to go and tell me that you're going to start? We need to get away from the NFL. It's really affecting us. I got a better idea. Start before the NFL, and then it doesn't really matter, which is what you did for 40 years before BZF came into power or whatever, I don't get it. But then it's NBC
Nothing
and
but
Fox
commercials, and we got USA now, which is going to be
yeah.
you suck ass. So
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's good.
yeah,
Yeah. So nothing but commercials and you suck ass. We need to make a shirt of that. Since Grid Talk, I need to talk to George. I need to figure out if we can go and make that as one of our first shirts, because we need to probably find like a better. Our logo I kind of just bullshit made up. But the fact is, I know we could make a cooler logo, and that would be the first shirt. And then we could come up with like certain catchphrases and things. But then the second one would be the NBC and USA deal, and I would wear that shirt too.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can talk about start times. I mean, I go back to my experience at the Daytona 500 back in 2020, and the race, I forget, it was going to
And
supposed to
Orangeade
be.
showed up for that
Well, I
bullshit
mean,
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah. He was there. I mean, whatever. I mean, he was there. I mean, I saw him there, whatever. But I mean, that's not the point. But I mean, it was heightened security and all that crap. But actually, here, let's factor it into that because I'll bring that part up too. But yeah, the race is supposed to start at like 2:30 or whatever, and I remember getting to the track at like 10, 9 a.m. or whatever, and I'm thinking like, we're all here all day, and this thing ain't gonna start until 2:30. And what happens at 2:30? It started raining, and then delayed an hour, and then it rained again after 20 laps, and then we didn't finish until Monday. It's like, why couldn't we just start at 1? We could have had at least quarter the race through, or maybe even up to halfway, right before it started raining. And the president, by the way, I mean, he only stayed. It delayed the race for like an hour, and I think he only stayed for like the first 20 green flag laps, and then he left. Or actually, no, he left like they're about to start the thing, and then it rained, and then he left. So if you had started earlier, I mean, at least, I mean, no matter who it is, Trump or Biden, whoever, I mean, at least have them be able to watch a significant portion of the action rather than taking off before the whole thing starts. Because I mean, yeah, the president's got more important things to do, but at least allow them to see more than just you know
Yeah.
the grid and being able to the green flag laps and all that. But I'll contrast this to Indy cars. I went and saw last year the St. Petersburg Grand Prix last year, and that thing started at like I want to say like 12:30 or something, and out of there by 3 p.m. I was able to go grab lunch with some friends of mine that live in the area in St. Petersburg and Tampa, and then I was able to drive home, and I was home by like in Melbourne. It takes 2.5 hours from or 2 hours or so from Tampa to Melbourne, and then I was able to get back by 8 p.m. and go to work the next day. NASCAR starts 3 p.m. whatever. I mean, in Florida it might rain, and then you're there until like 11. It's like and it's the whole day. If you at least start early, be able to at least start at 1, you were home by 7 or whatever, and at least have some of your time back. So it's all just really stupid, and it just shows that they're tied to the hip with the TV people, because they're the ones that determine the start times, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's ruined the experience for actually going to races like you're talking about. It's ruined trying like they've fucked with the 500 so much, and why? It's the biggest race of the year and you're burying it. You're burying the lead. That it's the biggest race of the year. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's the Great American Race. And that's the perfect example. The Daytona 500 started at frickin' 1 o'clock in the afternoon for decades. It was at maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock when they started with these people 20 years ago. Now you're starting it at 3:45, and you're putting rain into it every effing year because it's Florida. And that weather is totally unpredictable. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it almost seems like it's a work, but then it gets into the whole wrestling parlance too, as WrestleMania is going on right now, day one of WrestleMania. I mean, it's what it seems like, and they move start times back, and personally, I mean, I'm old school that way. I got used to the better part of, what is it, 7, 8 years of my life, my first 8 years of being a Cup Series fan. 12 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock starts. It was fine. It worked.
Yeah.
In the end, if you're going to watch, here's the reality. They're trying to get to LCD people. They're trying to get low attention span fans. The people that are going to watch are going to watch. And unfortunately, we're that it's in the end, we're suckers because we're going to be there at 3 o'clock. We're going to be there, but the difference is we're not going to go. They want low attention span fans to go, and they'll go and show up at 3 o'clock. But you would rather, if this is just smart business, common sense, but we both have common sense. So we're already ahead of 95% of fans. If I'm going to go and I'm going to go there early, I'm going to get there first thing in the morning at a racetrack, say 8 o'clock, whatever, 8:30. I want something to see. I want to have, it's the issue with IndyCar where they say, oh, we don't have a lot of track activity. The reason Pocono has been able to sustain with two races in 2 days is because they have 2 races in 2 days in Cup, and they have 2 races in front of it. That's how they've been able to sustain. They're gonna but they also have a good fan experience. They give you a lot for your money. You get 2 races for that one ticket. You go and get the infield thing. You get people who are independent vendors to show up. That's how you go and get people. Pocono does it right, but ISC and SMI don't understand that, and they're the ones who run the majority of the races. And then you have Fox and NBC who don't get what fans want, and they're gonna make you sit there for 5 hours a day thinking there's a reason why freaking NFL is perfect, because they give you like a 3.5, 4 hour package. They give it to you, they give you what you need. The only, like, for me as a fantasy, because it's funny, I was hanging out with Vic, who's one of my best friends and the defending winner of Fall Brawl, got to put his sticker on the belt now with his new 2-time champion placard on the belt, even though he fucked that up, which was hilarious. But the fact he's got to put his placard, we did a video. We talk about football and sit there. You talk about going and watching Red Zone. I'll sit there and I'll watch Red Zone. You know why? Because it's only touchdowns and big plays. You're not going to get that with racing. They need, if NASCAR wants to get really cool, they need to go and have a Red Zone channel. Then you'd appeal to me, because the racing is it's been good, to be fair, most of this year. Go and give me a Red Zone channel. You want to go and do internet and you want to make people pay for it, give me a Red Zone channel. Go and show me pit stops. Go and show me big moments. Let me go and edit who the hell I want to see. Then I'll go and watch it. That's the way you need to go and appeal to racing fans, because you're going to make me sit there and waste all my day to get to the Daytona 500 or get to the Bumblefuck 400 or the Vagisil 500. Why the fuck do I want to do that? I'll go and watch Formula One in the morning. I'll watch IndyCar in the afternoon, and I'll go on with the rest of my goddamn day. That's what I should do, and that's what I'm going to do, because the reality, even though I have a motorsports podcast, I have better things to do with my fucking life. NASCAR racing ain't that damn good anymore for me to go and sit there. If I was gambling on it, sure. But I don't have Josh's fucking bank account. I probably would if I had Josh's bank account. But I don't. I have my bank account, and it's fucking horrible. And the difference is I'd rather go and spend it on bowling, women, and beer. So I'll go and do that. And I don't have to watch NASCAR to do any of those things. So whatever. That's my thing, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, we gotta tie it back up into because I mean we still got to talk about trucks, and
we got to talk about trucks. So we're gonna go and turn into somebody who's got daddy's
trucks
money. In Zane Smith, who has now won his second of the year, fifth of his career, and getting Front Row Motorsports / David Gilliland Racing another win, which everybody, I think people forget that Front Row Motorsports truck is really basically a David Gilliland truck, because they're the ones who are really fronting all of this, and Ford is taking care of that deal. But it also is good for Front Row Motorsports, considering they employ Michael McDowell. So, it makes them look like they actually know what talent is. In regards to the points right now, I mean, Zane Smith should be leading the points, but he got DQ'd at Vegas. He is leading the points in regards to the playoffs, but he is 41 points or 31 points behind Chandler Smith overall. He's fourth in points, 31 points back. Getting into the race results, Zane Smith won over John Hunter Nemechek. Kyle Busch led the most laps, but got used up there by who the hell was it? It was
Friesen, Alex Bowman used him up in turn 11.
Yeah, Alex Bowman's, Stuball and Alex Bowman. Stuball still finished 9th. Bowman finished 25th. Friesen is actually third in points this year. Ben Rhodes second, the defending series champion. Tanner Gray is 5th, something there. Thor Sport, you see kind of themes here. You got the Thor Sport team has 3 trucks in the top 10 right now in points. You have the Kyle Busch Motorsports trucks, the two of them are there, so that's 5. And then you have Friesen, and they're for 6. So those are all Toyotas. Then you have Zane Smith and Tanner Gray, who are the DGR / front row trucks. And then the one the team that isn't amongst all of that is the McAnally Halgeman team of Derek Kraus, but he's tied with Tyler Ankrum with the Hattori Racing team. But you have Kraft and Hocevar in there, very close in points. They're all within. They're tied. Basically, there's like 2 points between those 4. So that's early in the season. Only four races into the year. You had Zane Smith, John Hunter, Nemechek, Kyle Busch, Ben Rhodes, Chandler Smith, your top 5. Christian Eckes, Tyler Ankrum, Carson Hocevar, Stuart Friesen, Grant Enfinger, your top 10. Kyle Busch led the most laps. Zane Smith led the second most laps. And then after that, there was only a few guys that led 1 lap. Brad Perez, who made his NASCAR driving debut at Watkins Glen last year in a K&N or what do you call it, an East Series race, ARCA East race, K&N ARCA East race. I got that T-shirt, and I was debating whether I was going to get his diecast. I'm thinking about getting his diecast for his Truck Series debut. He finished 20th. Got interviewed on TV, and it was hilarious because he's like, "How are you interviewing me? I'm running last." It was kind of funny, but he got in there and he finished 20th. Parker Kligerman, TV's Parker Kligerman, started 4th, but only ended up 19th. Trying to see. Lawless Allen, one of the greatest names in the history of the world. Lawless Allen finished 11th. Trying to get through some of these other people. Sheldon Creed started on the pole and then promptly broke a gearbox on the first lap, which is basically par for his whole entire year, considering how bad his Xfinity series, the start of his Xfinity series career looks compared to his teammate Austin Hill. Other than that, it's kind of, Taylor Gray had issues, whatever. The rest of their kind of furniture movers. Trying to go through some of this 10 lead changes, 6 drivers, 8 cautions or 12 laps amongst the 46 lap race. But yeah, Zane Smith leading 11 laps and being in the position to acquire that second win. That second win could be very key as we get into later on into this season, because it basically looks like there's about 3 teams that are really going to contend for this championship. You have Kyle Busch Motorsports, Thor Sport, and the DGR front row effort. There really isn't a Chevy presence here. So anybody that can get multiple wins, get those playoff points, is going to be big. I know John Hunter has a lot of playoff points right now. It says yes. Yeah, he has 3 playoff points. So he's only he's already third in those playoff points standings. So that right now, so that's a big deal for him. I mean, Corey Heim, it says he won the win. He got the win, so they don't give him the. I thought when you win a race, you get playoff points, don't you? Unless you're some issue, unless you're declared, or I guess if you're not. It looks like based on the points here, he won a race, but they don't give him he should have 5 playoff points. I don't know why he doesn't here, because he won a race. So because Chandler Smith has the playoff points and Zane Smith has his playoff points from his 2 wins. Interesting. But Zane Smith gets his second win in the year, and he kind of puts himself as a key player here. I think without the DQ at Vegas, he'd be leading the points. He's trying to finally win that championship and go and move up the ladder, but he's putting himself in a good position to do that.
Yeah, Zane Smith gaining his second career win at CoTA. He only led 11 laps, like you said. It was basically, this is Kyle Busch's race, like you talked about, and it came down to last lap shenanigans once again, and seems like again that's a continuous theme in the Cup Series, and it's a theme in the Truck Series. The standards, I mean, it wasn't Zane Smith was the beneficiary, but still, the standards and how people race on the last lap. I mean, Stuart Friesen, Alex Bowman went pretty hard, in that turn 11 hairpin, and then they were trying to take the lead from Kyle Busch, and then they both got into him, and then that allowed Zane Smith to get by and everything, and then from there it was basically his race. John Hunter Nemechek was way far behind, so he didn't really have much of a challenge beyond that. But I mean, you can say, I guess he's maybe a road course guy. I don't know. I mean, he's got second win at CoTA, won last year, of course. So it looks like maybe he might be a guy who kind of knows how to get around these road courses, and maybe an underdog that you have to consider when we go road racing in any of these series, whether it's truck or eventually Xfinity for him in Cup. So definitely a guy that we have to consider at these tracks. Beginning to put the stats up to back it up and everything. So, I mean, there's not much to take away from this race other than that. But like you said, he gives himself some extra security for the playoffs later this year, especially with how tight the playoff field tends to be for the Truck Series in their playoff format.
Yeah, I mean, Zane Smith has been able to win different racetracks in his career, early in his career. Just going to go to the caps lock there, going to that, and then going to the Truck Series. Oh, God. Next race, yep. Next race will be Martinsville. We'll talk about that next week on the Ripster podcast. NASCAR Xfinity saying, he ran 10 races in the Xfinity series? Who did he run those for? I'm trying to remember who he ran for now. I have to bring that up. He ran for that's right, he ran for JR Motorsports. My fault. And he was running them back in the top 10. Okay. I was trying to remember when the hell he ran in Xfinity. Yeah, he's won at big tracks, he's won at small tracks, he's won at and now he's won at a road course. He won at bigger tracks over 2 miles with Michigan Daytona. He's won at Dover, Martinsville, and now Austin. So, and then the Front Row Motorsports team has won 2 consecutive races at CoTA in their Truck Series. 2 times at CoTA, the Front Row Motorsports team has won both of them. Todd Gilliland winning there last year. We'll get into the Xfinity Series race now at CoTA, which saw why into the full-time team that's great that Derek Hope wants to continue racing. It's just a benefit to the world that he wants to race. AJ Allmendinger ended up winning the Pit Boss 250, led 27 laps. It was basically him and Ross Chastain that dominated this race. Austin Hill finished second. Cole Custer finished third for Bobby Dotter's team. Gagson, Mayer. So in regards to the regulars, it was Allmendinger, Hill, Gagson, and Mayer who got themselves eligible for the $100,000 Dash for Cash, which started at Richmond. Myatt Snyder finished sixth. Moffitt seventh, Jade Buford eighth, Miguel Paludo driving for Junior Motorsports ninth, and Sheldon Creed finished 10th. Trying to look through any other. Ty Gibbs qualified on pole, but only finished 15th. Sage Karam got spun out, still finished 16th. Kligerman driving for Joey Gase and Patrick Emmerling finished 12th, dealing with dehydration and other issues after driving the Truck Series race. Ryan Sieg actually finished 11th. He's not known for his road racing prowess. Justin Allgaier got good stage points and led a lap, but only finished 33rd. Alex Labay had a rear gear issue after finishing second in the first stage, finished 36th. So, I mean, when you talk about this race and you go, Gar Robinson, LMP3 champion, defending LMP3 champion, driving for Jimmy Means, wasn't able to make the race. Josh Williams had a rough start to the year. Of course, Jesse Iwuji didn't make the race because he sucks. Bubba Wallace was running well for most of the day, and then he started having transmission problems. The 28th place finish is not indicative of what he was doing in that race. But yeah, AJ Allmendinger continues to add on to his tally of race wins in Xfinity series on road courses. Not really shocking. Car was really, really good. He was biding his time the whole day, kind of like what he did in the Cup car. And he did what he had to. The difference was he was able to kind of dictate the race from the front compared to what he had to do the next day in the Cup car there, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, he continues his. He finally got a win in the Xfinity series. Talked about how his season in Xfinity has gone so far this year prior to CoTA, but now, he's gotten top 10s, top 5s, but now finally gets a win at the road course, which is that's his bread and butter in this racetrack. So, being able to go out and get a win at CoTA, that's checks one off the list for AJ Allmendinger. He's able to go and I guess focus on getting wins now. Don't have to worry about making the playoffs more than likely. But he continuing to show what he can do on these tracks, and I think the bigger thing for me, for Allmendinger is, unfortunately he didn't get the double that he was looking for, but at least come away with the Xfinity win there. But some of the other guys that finished in the top 5, and Cole Custer, generally not known as a road course guy, but came out and finished third and put the 0-7 almost, not almost in victory lane, but certainly a top 5 run, pretty good to come home for that team. Austin Hill, generally not known as a road course guy, at least so far in his Xfinity career, finishing second. Noah Gregson, another guy that's not really a road course guy. For the most part, I think. He came home in 4th. So some guys that normally you think of as road course guys came out and did pretty well in this race. And then some of the other guys here. Ty Gibbs, was expecting a lot more from him in this race, but led one lap, started on pole, didn't even lead the first lap. But eventually came back and led one lap later on the race, finished 15th. So a bit of a disappointing run there for him. Ross Chastain, the Cup winner, led 14 laps, started second, but ended up in 17th. So got a little bit of extra experience for the Cup race, paid off. Seems like think Bubba Wallace had a good run too, but just didn't have a whole lot of luck to show for it there. But I think overall this race pretty straightforward. We only had 4 cautions, just one outside of the stage cautions. We had a fluid caution and a debris caution. So this race pretty straightforward, no crashing, no nothing, and then it was pretty solid in it. At least this one didn't end or didn't take too much time. So solid racing here, and then of course we'll talk about Richmond in a minute and how that one played out. But this one solid race, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's something this race, it kind of set up the tone for what I think we're going to see is one of the guys that is probably going to be flirting with the Final 4 here in this Xfinity series, and AJ Allmendinger with his experience. But another person that is likely to have something to say about this championship will be Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs qualified on pole again on Saturday, meaning today, with the Xfinity Series in Richmond. The Toyota Care 250 was basically dominated by 2 Toyotas. The Toyota of John Hunter Nemechek, who ended up getting moved and finishing second. He won the first stage, got pipped in the second stage by Ty Gibbs, but the race was basically between those 2 guys the whole day, and Ty Gibbs ends up with the win after a last turn bump and run. Sam Mayer finished third and won the $100,000 Dash for Cash. So it was Ty Gibbs, Sam Mayer, AJ Allmendinger, Riley Herbst, who are now the eligible drivers going into next week's race at Martinsville. Daniel Hemrick finished 6th. Josh Berry 7th, Brandon Brown 8th, Ryan Sieg 9th, and Parker Retzlaff, who's somebody that I think Josh has been able to run into in his iRacing time, going and getting a top 10.
I don't think so. I haven't seen him around on iRacing, but yeah, iRacer, that's pretty good though.
He's, for a guy that's known iRacer, getting a top 10 in only his second career Xfinity Series start for the Ryan Sieg team. Ryan Sieg getting a couple cars in the top 10, that's a big deal for them. Another person there, Ryan Preece was driving for BJ McLeod, started 6th, only got 16th, probably because of the pit stops and issues there. 19 cars are on the wheel. So there's something with that. Gagson, Creed, both were buried there. Raja Caruth making his Xfinity Series debut, finished 2 laps down in 24th, but kept the car clean. So there is that. Trying to go through some of these other people that had roughly Jade Buford after a top 10 last week. He finished 33rd. Mike Snyder had a top 10 finish last week, finished 30th. Kyle Weatherman was driving for Owuji, got a 28th place finish. Yeah, Harrison Rose, Dylan Bassett, Howie DiSavino, Matt Mills, I don't know who's the 55, but yeah, Landon Castle, you're talking about some of the people that are outside of top 10. Jeb Burton, Anthony Alfredo, Brandon Jones, Allgaier Castle were your top 15. Austin Hill finished 18th. So, I mean, Ty Gibbs used up he moved John Hunter to win the race. Sean Hunter wasn't happy about it, but considering John Hunter's track record, it's kind of funny that he would say anything, let alone with the fact that Ty Gibbs has proven that he doesn't really mind moving people around, moving people out of the way to go and win races, which is fine for now. But I would venture to say that there are certain drivers in the Xfinity Series that are kind of just waiting and biding their time, probably likely in the playoffs, probably in the round of 8, to go and kind of retaliate towards Ty Gibbs and some of the moves and some of the things he does, Josh, so that he's basically building a portfolio where he's willing to go and run over or move over anybody to win a race. Well, you do that enough, you're going to put a target on your back. If you put that target on your back, somebody's going to probably use you up.
I mean, he's definitely putting up an enemies list, that's for sure, for Ty Gibbs, and I guess the latest one on that list is John Hunter Nemechek. But I mean, they were going at it pretty good the last little bit of that race. John Hunter, there was a point where John Hunter was basically using him up with his right side on Ty Gibbs' left side a couple of times, but Ty Gibbs was able to take back the lead, and then late in the race, John Hunter was able to go up there and kind of use the bumper to get the lead. But I mean, it's just race the way you want to be raced, I guess. And I mean, I think maybe John Hunter's moves were fair, but then I think definitely Ty Gibbs the last lap definitely overdrove the corner and made sure to get John Hunter Nemechek out of the way, and so maybe that move in context was a little bit different than Ty Gibbs or than John Hunter, whatever he was able to do against Ty Gibbs there whenever he passed him for the lead. So the last lap shenanigans come out again, but I mean it's short track racing, I guess, and that's the way these things play out. And now Ty Gibbs got 3 victories already on the year, so he's well on his way to potentially being a guy that they're going to have to face up against in the Championship 4 at Phoenix in November. So, I mean, this race, again, pretty straightforward other than the last maybe 50 laps or so, just a battle between the 54 and 18 all day. But, you talk about, these battles and everything. One thing I'll say about that is, and I guess like the viewing experience, talking about, we talked about Fox, NBC earlier. Well, there was a point in this race where I think John Hunter Nemechek was closing in on Ty Gibbs. I think it was probably about maybe like 30 or 40, 30 laps to go in this race. And I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, but caught the end of it there, and turn it on. And John Hunter, I think this is at the point where John Hunter tried to pass him on the inside, but couldn't get the drive off, and he was had doored him a few times, but that was it. And then in a second window, or a second box, and or side by side, whatever, they don't have to completely cut away from it to show that, because I would have liked to be able to see John Hunter be able to close in on the lead, because that's watching the intervals, he was closing in, and they did cut back to when John Hunter was just about to pass him there, but you would like to see the it's like watching a movie, and then all of a sudden you skip all the important parts and you skip to the end or whatever, or there's all the setup and the lead up to that, and they miss on that when you cut away from something that was pretty looked like it was going to be pretty good to show something that's already happening, and then you come back to see the pass for the lead happen and stuff. So a little bit of rant there, but I guess just they need to be able to improve the viewing experience to show everything in context, I guess, because that's part of being a fan, watching little things like that build up, and seeing passes be made. You don't whatever. So it's just part of why Fox's coverage sucks, part of why NBC coverage sucks. So they got to be able to show all the action, not just parts of it.
I didn't get to watch a race, so I wouldn't know. In that sense, I just heard about it on social media with Ty Gibbs winning, which I think is part of the reason why I don't care about watching on Saturdays anymore. I used to, it was a few years ago, I would go and make appointment television for Saturday races. Those days are gone. Probably will watch next week, because either we'll be probably doing the show, or he might have done the show, so then get to watch on Friday evening at Martinsville. So we'll get to watch that race.
Dale Jr.'s in that one too, so gotta watch that.
So there you go. So Junebug will be running his Hellman's car. You'll have, of course, Josh Berry, who is a Martinsville expert, defending race winner there, and trying to get his first win of the year after somewhat of a rough start, to say, early in the year. You figure Daniel Hemrick will be somebody that would be some to look at. He runs well there at Martinsville. Colleague has never really been great there, so it would be kind of an interesting combination if they can go and put something together there in what will be the cutoff race here a few months' time. Ty Gibbs winning, it's like some of these Cup guys winning in Xfinity. He's got the best car. His grandfather owns a team. He runs over people. It's kind of his MO. Karma's going to catch up to Ty Gibbs eventually. It's a case of when that'll be. I figure it'll be during the the round of 8. And then that'll be where we'll see if the guy has the talent and ability to deal with adversity and basically have to win 2 races in a row to go and be a champion. We go from Xfinity and the NASCAR stuff to the Roundup to go, and so we're going from the Xfinity series to go into the Formula One, going to Vegas. They ran in Vegas back in the early 80s, well before either of us were here or were a thought of existing. Ran in the Caesars Palace parking lot. Well, this time they're running on the Las Vegas Strip. And I was discussing this with one of my friends at work, and I'm like, what they're going to do? They're going to go and schedule a Las Vegas Raiders game on Sunday Night Football the same day, and they might end up having, and he said, well, they'll probably put a Golden Knights game on the same day too. So then there'll be a clusterfuck of traffic trying to get to both of those games while the Formula One race will be going on. You brought up the time of when they're going to run the race, Josh. So it's cool. I think it's something that'll appeal to a lot of people. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money to go to that. There's going to be a lot of money spent from worldwide people going to Vegas. It'll probably be the race that, the Hollywood types will go to. I mean, Hollywood types have went to CoTA. Matthew McConaughey is a Texas guy, but Hollywood types have gone to CoTA. It's a great racetrack. It's built for Formula One, but this Vegas race is the box office race that I guess Formula One really wants here in the United States to kind of expand their make get into their expansion and the growth in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the race time and how how long it's going to be. I mean, this race is going to start at night. It's going to be a nighttime race in Las Vegas, and then on the East Coast, it's going to be way late for us. So they talk about wanting to expand to the U.S., but got to be able to include all of the U.S. in my opinion to be able to really expand into it. But especially for that New York audience where a lot of the media is based in the United States. So you got to be able to. I mean, sure they'll watch it and everything, but you got to be able to appeal to all the coasts, I guess. But I mean, the track itself seems interesting. I mean, it's going to include part of the Las Vegas Strip, which is cool. I mean, I've been there when I was younger, and seeing all that is pretty interesting. Of course, I was too young to really experience it for what it actually is. So maybe later on be able to actually experience the Las Vegas Strip. But I mean, it's an interesting track layout. But I would like to see what it once they get some actual renderings of what the surface and all the stuff, all the turns are going to look like. Would like to be able to see that, but I mean, we have one long straight. Looks like it's going to be a lot of DRS zones, possibly, and a lot of high speed, low speed corners, or high speed straight, low speed corners. So could be make for some exciting racing, hopefully, and hopefully it does. If it's exciting, and the Hollywood crowd or type crowd can like it, it can become a marquee event, I guess, on the F1 calendar there. So, Las Vegas, big event. Of course, as you talk about with the Hollywood types, it also comes with expensive prices, and I'm sure the average fan like you and me probably wouldn't be able to afford going to that. Being able to get the most for your dollars. And you talk about CoTA. I mean, the Hollywood types go there, but at least it's affordable for people like us. Yeah, I make more money than you, but still, I mean, the Miami race, the Las Vegas race. I mean, I again could technically afford it, but it's paying way too much money for the experience of going there. But at least at CoTA, still affordable for the regular fan there. So. Yeah, I mean, should be an exciting race. Looking forward to, I guess, watching it once it happens, and then, of course, all the action and being able to have 3 races in the United States. That's pretty exciting for Formula One as they try to continue their growth in the United States.
Yeah, it's cool. I think the novelty of it is what makes it nice. I think it has way more appeal than the Miami race because at the end of the day, the Miami race is basically in a parking lot and around a football stadium versus the glitz and glamour that is the Las Vegas Strip. I mean, I'm curious to see how the logistics will work in having to close the Las Vegas Strip for 3 days. Uh, Not really sure how the hell that's going to work out too well. It's part of the reason why New York never happened, and they left the Detroit streets, to go to Belle Isle. But Roger Penske has a lot of pull, so he was able to basically say we're going to go return back into the Detroit streets here starting in 2023. So that'll be something. We'll have Indy cars back on the streets of Detroit. We'll have Formula One on the streets of Las Vegas. Cup Series might end up running a street race next year too. So hell, we'll be an opposite world here soon enough. Getting into some of the other things that went on here this past weekend in the world of motorsports. Supercars were at Symmons Plains. Trying to go. ATC, 5 different drivers taking the first 5 overall. Supercars positions for Repco. Supercars Championship. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. You have, what is it? Cam Waters. You have Shane Van Gisbergen. Trying to get Dennis Pages for Robin version. Okay. Seton Brock, Australian GP record, it still stands. Yeah, 5 for 5. Yeah, as it stands so far early in the year, Shane Van Gisbergen, Anton De Pasquale, Brody Kostecki at Sydney. Then you have Tasmania, Cam Warner, Shane Van Gisbergen, Will Davison. Qualified on pole for the 3 races. So trying to get into Repco Supercharge, so Tasmania Super Sprint. Then Shane Van Gisbergen has, how the hell does that say 14? Oh man, yeah. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins. So yeah, so that's, oh man. An average qualifying position 5.1, average finishing position 1.3. Yeah, that'll do it. That's trying to get the event results. So Tasmania Super Sprint, the qualifying race 3-part race. So Shane Van Gisbergen swept the races at the Tasmania Super Sprint at Symmons Plains. He's won 3 of the 4 first 5 races so far in the season, trying to defend his championship, become a 3-time series champion. In race 3, let's get into that. So the race 3 saw Shane Van Gisbergen win over Will Davison, Cam Waters, Brody Kostecki, and Brock Feeney. Anton De Pasquale, Scott Pye, Andre Heimgardner, Lee Holdsworth, and Todd Hazelwood were your top 10. The race, getting into race 4, Van Gisbergen beats his teammate Brock Feeney, and then David Reynolds, Chaz Mostert, Anton De Pasquale, your top 5. Mark Winterbottom, Scott Pye, James Courtney, Lee Holdsworth, Todd Hazelwood, your top 10. Then in race 5, Shane Van Gisbergen over Will Davis and Anton De Pasquale. So Dick Johnson gets 2 cars on the podium. David Reynolds, Todd Hazelwood 5th. Cam Waters 6th. Mark Winterbottom 7th. Brock Feeney 8th. James Courtney 9th. Nick Percat in 10th. In the points standings, Van Gisbergen has a 67-point lead on Anton De Pasquale, 122-point lead on Will Davison in 3rd. Mostert's 4th, and Brody Kostecki is 5th, Brock Feeney 6th, Cam Waters 7th, Will Brown 8th, Reynolds 9th, Tim Slade in 10th. Going from Supercars to F2 at Saudi Arabia, Formula 2, add calendar results. In sprint race, saw Liam Lawson win the sprint race, and then the feature race, Felipe Drogovic was the winner there. You have in the sprint race is Liam Lawson over Yuri Vips, Felipe Drogovic, Kellen Williams, Richard Vachor, Iwasa, Daruvala, Sato, Nissani, and Fittipaldi were the top 10. Then in the feature race, you saw Drogovic over Vachor, Daruvala, Hughes, Jake Hughes, Marcus Armstrong, Dennis Hauger, Iwasa, Nissani, Doohan, and Yuri Vips in the top 10. The points see Drogovic over Lawson by 11 points right now. Vachor is 3rd, 13 points behind Drogovic. Yuri Vips 4th, Teo Pocher 5th, Daruvala 6th, Marcus Armstrong 7th, Boschung 8th, Jake Hughes 9th, and Iwasa in 10th. Logan Sargent is 11th at 9 points. And you have, 6 drivers that haven't scored a point so far in the season. Only 2 races old. Their next race will be a month away in Imola, so they have a while to go and think about things on their end. MotoGP and Moto2 will be racing at in Argentina. The qualifying for the Argentine Grand Prix sees Alex Espargaro get the first pole for Aprilia over Pramac Racing's Jorge Martin and Monster Energy VR40, or no, what is that? Trying to go and look at the VR46 team of Luca Marini in third. Then Pol Espargaro, Maverick Vinales making two Aprilias in the top five. And Fabio Quartararo, the defending world champion, in the top six. Ugh. Then you have Alex Rins, Joan Mir, Johan Zarco, Taka Nakagami in your top 10. Trying to go in the top 12. Trying to get the grid. Yeah, Luca Marini there. Talking. Yeah. And then Nea Bastianini, right now the current world championship leader in 13th, ahead of Pecco Bagnaia, Franco Morbidelli, Miguel Oliveira. So that's an interesting combination there, 13th through 16th. Yeah, and that's it. Stefan Bradl is filling in for Marc Marquez at the Honda team. So things are a little tougher for them with Marc Marquez's continued injuries, especially considering he's going to one of his favorite circuits next week at CoTA. Moto 2, trying to go and bring that up. They don't have anything in regards to Moto 2. I guess that means they're not there. I'm try to get into, Moto 3. It's 4 minutes. Algarve. So Moto 3 sees Foggia scores dominant win. Migno. Yeah, Dennis Foggia. That's March. Yeah, that's not what I was looking for. Yeah, so MotoGP is the only one that will race in Argentina this weekend, leading into the U.S. Grand Prix at CoTA. From there, I'm going to give Josh a mic here to kind of start the preview here with Richmond. There's been qualifying so far in practice today at Richmond Raceway. Practice results saw Kyle Busch run the fastest over Chris Buescher, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe. Eric Jones, Royland Byron, Martin Truex, Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, the top 10. Over 10-lap average, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex, and Kevin Harvick are the 5 fastest drivers. And then in regards to the pole award, we saw Ryan Blaney get yet another pole over William Byron by 3/300ths of a second. Kyle Busch third, Chase Briscoe fourth, Eric Jones fifth, Truex, Harvick, Chastain, Bell, Almirola. And then again, the starting lineup, there were only 37 cars on the field, but Justin Haley and Greg Biffle didn't even get to qualify because of not passing inspection within the allotted amount of attempts. So they're going to end up having to lose their car chief and then run a pass-through penalty. So that's not a good start to the race for either Haley or Biffle, but especially Haley, who's running for points. That's something that we'll look at here for sure. Looking at other people that have won, Logano's won at Richmond. He's 11th, Hamlin 13th, Brad Keselowski 19th.
Kyle Larson 21st.
21st, yeah, he's won there before. So Kurt Busch and Xfinity has won there. I don't remember he's ever won in a cup car there, but those are the people there, and I'll let you do your thing, Josh, here. Let us know what you're thinking in regards to what we will see with this next-gen car after what was generally a snooze fest in the Xfinity race here today. Will the next-gen car help with the track and the conditions that they have there? Or are we getting ready to probably need to see them seal the racetrack again for the first time in what amounts to 20 years?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think this race car, this is going to be its first short track race that we've seen with the next gen car. So I think definitely what we've seen so far with its ability to kind of, I guess, close, on traffic and being able to stay within certain distances, but behind the cars and everything. I think we'll see an interesting event, and I think if you can stay behind another car and be able to keep up with them, that should be make out for an entertaining race. And I think the other thing you have to think about is if a second groove comes in, if we get a high side or high line that comes in for this car or this track. So I think we could see something like that. I mean, we've seen Richmond have side by side racing before. And it seems like in the last couple of years, the upper mid groove compared to the lower line, I think could come into effect here. It could be an interesting event, to watch. You talk about Ryan Blaney's starting on pole. We'll see if he can pick up a win here. Hasn't won yet this season. Would be another continuing the streak of drivers under the age of 30 being able to win a race. He's still in his 20s. He's going to be 29 this year. So the 28-year-old Ryan Blaney winning the pole could be another driver to extend that streak of drivers younger than 30. So we'll have to see what happens. Kyle Busch, I would pick Kyle Busch to win this race, though. Break that streak. He looks like he's had good pace in his car, and he's starting in third. So could see him take the lead early and be able to go out and lead a ton of laps of this race. We'll have to see. Last year's winner of this race, Alex Bowman, starting in 28th place. But of course, he's the type of guy that kind of works his way through the field, and they use strategy. Greg Ives is a great strategist that's able to put Alex Bowman in good positions to get good finishes, whether it's a win or being able to race for top tens and top fives. So we'll have to see what happens in this race. Could be it's either gonna be a boring race or it could be actually pretty interesting, pretty compelling to watch. We'll have to see if they can follow up with what happened today in Xfinity with the door, run over by Ty Gibbs and John Hunter Nemechek. We'll have to see if something similar to that happens in this race. But the last couple of years, Richmond hasn't really been all that great. I mean, the only interesting event or race that did happen was the race that Alex Bowman won last year, and that was really only because of late cautions and stuff causing the field to get shuffled up, and then they were able to take advantage of good track position. So we'll have to see. But Martin Truex won last time the series was at Richmond. Back in the fall. Last year, he's starting in sixth place. He could be another threat to watch in this race for sure. Danny Hamlin was pretty dominant in this race back in the spring, 2021. So we'll have to see if he can, make his way up to the front. Hasn't been real good at all this year. Starting out the season, been pretty poor for him. But if he can get something out of this race, that'd be interesting. Chase Elliott, another guy that's done pretty well at Richmond, although hasn't won yet. Starting 15th. We got rookies Austin Cindric and Harrison Burton, both starting 17th and 20th. We'll have to see if those drivers can make their way up through the field. Kyle Larson's been pretty good at Richmond too in the past. He's won a race here at Richmond in the past. We'll have to see if he can make his way up to the front. And then you mentioned Brad Keselowski earlier. This might be an important race for his team. There haven't been all that great to start the year so far. They've only had one top 10 in the first six races of the year, and they've haven't finished all that great to start the year. But this is a short track where maybe the gap isn't as quite as big between the Roush, Fenway, Keselowski cars compared to the rest of the field. So maybe Brad Keselowski can get a top 15 run or something out of it. His teammate Chris Buescher start right next to him in 18th place. So maybe the RFK cars can get something out of this and they can have a better finish than what they've had. Possibly one of them get a top 10 in this event. So, this should be a interesting race to watch just because it's going to be the first short track race with the next gen car.
Let's hope so. Richmond has definitely become a snoozer here in recent years. The races I've attended there have not been all that great. And they called it the action track, and there sure as hell hasn't been a whole lot of action there for a while. Uh, they need to probably start putting the sealer down again like they used to back in the day to assist with the weather, of course, with all the weather you're going to get in northeast Virginia and for the racing in general. But in regards to the picks, I mean, for me, I look at this grid and I look at what the practice results were. I mean, you're talking about you got the qualifying there, practice results. I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. At some point, he has to close the deal. I think Ryan Blaney finally, gets the first win of the year for him, and it would be kind of redemption. It's a redemption arc of sorts because he made his Xfinity debut there 10 years ago in a Tommy Baldwin car and probably had the fastest car that night. Qualified third, but their pit stop sucked. He finished seventh. Would be a nice little kind of connection and redemption arc there. But him and Jonathan Hassler, they've been putting fast race cars out there for qualifying. They've had decent runs, of course. They're up there in points, but you want to win that race and get yourself in track position. I think at the end of the day, it won't be as drastic as the Xfinity race, but I think track position and having good pit stall selection is going to play a role. I think Blaney goes out there and closes the deal finally and gets that win. If we're looking at a dark horse player to go and get one, I would say Eric Jones because, I mean, they have momentum this year. California ran great the whole entire race, but that's a totally different type of racetrack. Eric Jones is a short track racer at his core. Dave Ellens is a crew chief that has done work. I mean, he's got the Hendrick connection, of course. He ran the Xfinity program at the 9 car. Now you bring him to Cup with Petty GMS and this next gen car with Eric Jones. They're a sleeper. It would be a big win, of course, for them if they could go and get the 43 car back in victory lane. Be huge for Mr. the King if he could see that happen here on Sunday. Those are my picks. Who are you looking at?
Well, I think for me, like I said earlier, I picked Kyle Busch to win this race. I mean, based on practice speed, looks like he's got a pretty fast car. Starting third, going to be up front, so expect him to be able to. And looks like UNC might win this. Sorry, but it's a pretty tight game there. But this event here, I definitely think Kyle Busch is probably the guy to beat. I look at some of the other guys that have won here in the past, like Martin Truex, probably be up front as well. Eric Jones, that's actually a pretty good, solid dark horse pick. I'm gonna go with I guess for a dark horse, go with Eric Almirola. He look at how he was able to run at New Hampshire last year. I mean, I won't say that New Hampshire is similar to Richmond, but short track racing, that might be something that Eric Almirola might excel at. So definitely think Almirola could be somebody that we have to look out for. He's had a pretty good start to the year so far, just quietly getting top tens. But I still feel like he's a guy that fits as a dark horse pick for sure in this series.
Yeah, it's a good pick because Eric Almirola is consistent, but he's not known as a winner. But this is his kind of track. He's been able to do work here in lesser equipment. Blickensderfer, for whatever he's worth, is considered a good crew chief. I mean, he has won a few races here and there. Fox Sports likes him too. So we will see. Josh brought it up now. North Carolina is up 80-77 with 7 seconds to go in what could end up being Coach K's last game of his illustrious career.
Yeah.
3 points down, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm trying to. What did I do? Did I mistakenly get rid of my notes there? I think I did. That's what I did. I blocked myself out with my notes. Go over there and bring that up. We will get into Josh's sim segment here. They were talking about Parker Retzlaff there and Raja Caruth earlier. But what are you doing on iRacing, or what are you looking at towards these next few weeks? I know there was an announcement. There was a World of Outlaws announcement with the game. I think the Open Wheels 500 also made an announcement in regards of eligibility. So I think that probably plays a role in what you're going to be doing, Josh, in regards to the IndyCar and the IR18.
Yeah, of course. I think this week the Fixed Indy Series is doing Homestead this week, and then next week they're doing. See, looking at a schedule, Homestead and then Auto Club. So two tracks I really like for the Oval Series. See, maybe if I can get some in tonight, later tonight or tomorrow for Homestead. Then later in the week, probably maybe try to do some Auto Club later in the week. I mean, got some work stuff that I still got to do, of course. So there will be that. But then I guess after that, probably have a little bit of time for some iRacing, and definitely try to do Auto Club Speedway with the IndyCar. It's always a fun racetrack, and definitely like using the high line there, like I do with the IndyCar. So that's definitely a track that I enjoy running at with the IR18. On the road side for the IR18, I think they're at Phoenix this week in the Road Series, and then next week at Long Beach, just like the real series. So maybe try out a little bit of Long Beach. It's definitely a tougher track to run, but definitely got to try out racing at Long Beach, which I have actually yet to do in the Indy cars in this series. Let's see, in the 87 cars at NASCAR Legend Series, got, let's see, Charlotte Motor Speedway and Darlington, Charlotte at the end of this week, and then Darlington. I don't know if I have enough time to do any of that there. Other series that might be looking to run that fit into my time frame. There's this production car Simulab Challenge, which is basically a series that has the Mazda Miata, Pontiac Solstice, a VW Jetta, then the Ford Mustang FR 500. That's a series I like running in iRacing. It's always fun. They're racing at the Boot Watkins Glen configuration, so should be a fun event there, which is only like a 30-minute time to race, which is always fun to watch or fun to race in. And it's not too long, but you get your road course racing in, multi-class racing in, fix in there. Other series that I've run in the past, trying to just pull up all the lists here. Road course racing series that I've done in the past, and like doing the touring car class with the Honda Civic racing at Okayama International Circuit. That's always a fun track to play on iRacing. So yeah, lots of good opportunities to play on iRacing here with all these tracks. And then you mentioned the basketball stuff earlier. Yeah, UNC just won. Rest in peace to my bracket. It's all finished now, and one of my friends won our bracket challenge that we were doing. I did try I wanted to play for money, but I forgot to organize it. It was my bracket, and then I had some, I guess, hang-ups on there trying to figure out who was who in the bracket, and I didn't find out until later. And then I should have charged everybody before entering, so that we increase the pot, I guess, as we go, rather than charging everybody after the fact. Because then it's hard to charge somebody $10 after their bracket's already busted on the day one of the thing, which happened to some people in my bracket challenge there. But at least there's that. On a side note, and then I know you mentioned Open Wheels 500. I haven't really heard anything outside of the entries. I guess the reopening of the race for the Open Wheels 500. Haven't really seen enough. So okay. Per our gaming council, a decision has been made that drivers that attempt to qualify for the iRacing Indy 500 will be ineligible to enter the 2022 Open Wheels 500-mile race. Okay, now I see that, and now you've made me aware of that because you talked about it. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an interesting decision, and I'm gonna have to go to the iRacing forums on the IndyCar side to really see, because I'm sure that the IndyCar racing community on iRacing is very interesting. It's very gate kept, very close knit, and it's definitely a interesting community, and they're very like when you mess with stuff like last year they messed with qualifying for the Indy 500 for the iRacing Indy 500. It was they for the open setup they basically like the day before qualifying they gave everybody the default iRacing setup for Indianapolis, and it was just about as good or maybe even better than the ones that people had been coming up with. The ones like there's a bunch of like online setup shops online that and other places where people come up with setups and stuff, and people were kind of pissed off. Tanner was very upset about that. I remember he had a big long post, and there's a big thread on the iRacing forums that you can go. I don't know if it's still there, but go look at and see the complaints that people had, and there's people were either on one side or the other side of whether or not they should allowed that setup change to happen in the middle of qualifying for the iRacing Indy 500. So that's an interesting decision by the open wheels, I guess, people, whatever. Because I feel like, in my opinion, I would have used the open wheels or used the Indy 500 as a thing as practice for the open wheels 500. So I guess that's going to be a big decision I'm going to have to make, to enter the iRacing Indy 500, in May, when kind of getting hyped up for the real Indy 500, and you want to race the iRacing Indy 500, or do you want to try and go for the open wheels 500, in November? So that's definitely going to thin out the field for sure, because on one hand you have the teams and people that compete for the open wheels 500. Will they decide to go for the iRacing 500? And if they don't, then they'll compete there, and that means that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to win the iRacing 500, which probably have a better chance of winning that than the open wheels 500. But on the other hand, if you want to go for the open wheels 500, there's going to be a lot of competition for that. So it's going to be a pretty interesting decision I'm going to have to make here. And I'm going to have to, I guess, seek counsel on the iRacing forums and see what people say about that. So it's definitely something I have to look into, and I'm glad I learned that, because now I have some decisions I'm gonna have to make. So we'll see. I have to see what happens there. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to think about what I want to do for next month. Maybe it frees up my Friday night or Saturday night next month, and I can just push that off until November. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and it goes and kind of puts you in a position where if you attempt to qualify, it doesn't mean that you can't practice, right? In theory, it means you could practice for the iRacing Indy 500, but if you
Yeah, I just
decide
can't
to make,
race.
yeah, you can't attempt to qualify. So there's no, so I guess we're going and talking about it in live. So I read that and I thought you had read that. So now I'm glad, I guess I mentioned that so that you were able to go and look at it. So it kind of gives you an opportunity to try your open setup or a fixed setup situation and go and see where you're at relative to everybody else. And then if you're competitive, well, you can go one way. If you're not, you just gave yourself some R&D time, and you then get to go and spend another 6 months to work on that while you're running the Indy Oval Series, and getting more time in that car before the Open Wheels 500. But I guess we'll find out here in a month, as you said. Where can we follow your streams, Josh? Where can we follow you on social media so we can get all the info and what you're thinking and what you're doing in regards to not only racing but sports and in general?
As always, of course, you can follow me at JP Huffine. That's the Twitter, the Instagram. That's where you can follow me at for all my stuff, where I'm, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, and all that. And then for the iRacing streams and any other sim racing or gaming streams, you can find me at Twitch TV/USailor2. Watch me on there. Haven't been live in a while, but got to reconfigure something on my account there with my streaming software. And then once I get that out of the way, I'll try to stream a little bit more than I have been. I mean, I've been playing a little bit of iRacing while I've been here, or while I've been around, just keep forgetting to reconfigure my stream key, I guess, or whatever for my software that I use to stream, so that it can talk to my Twitch account and stream to Twitch and everything. So there's that. But definitely tweet out the links when I stream, and then you can go and watch. And definitely try to let Phil, when I am live. So if you want to tune in, you can tune in. So yeah, that's where you can watch me and where you can follow me at Unmute Yourself.
There you go. So you can follow me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can follow me, or you can follow the Grip Strip Podcast at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter. You can, in regards to the Grip Strip Pod, we're on basically any platform you can find podcast. In let's see here. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora. We're also on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn. So we're basically anywhere you can find podcasts. You can find Gripstrip Podcast. We're on YouTube. Josh handles the video side. So we're at Gripstrip Podcast on YouTube. Or is it Gripstrip Pod? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Scripture Podcast, on YouTube. So yeah, go and subscribe, like our videos, and comment and give us feedback and everything. We're trying to break into the video space there, and trying to post our podcast there, so you can watch or listen on there, and try to grow that.
Yeah, it's a good deal there. Now that we're posting that video as well. And it's cool to be able to have that as well, along with our show, and getting it out there on our platforms that we have it there. We'll be back next week with episode 108 to talk about NASCAR Cup at Richmond, talk about MotoGP, and a very, very busy week in motorsports. You got 2 series at Long Beach. You have Formula One and Supercars in Australia. You have IndyCar IMSA at Long Beach. You have NASCAR at Martinsville, all 3 series. You have Formula E in Italy. You have other stuff going on, I think World Superbikes as well. So we'll get into all of that here for episode 108 of the Grip Strip Podcast. For Josh, I'm Phil. Thank you once again for listening to the GSP, and take care. God bless. Good night.